Hi, this is Gary Jordan from Natural Law for North America. And I normally don't do two videos in 2 nights in a row, but today we had a very, very big news day that does impact natural law, at least for us transitioning into natural law at some point. And the two news things are the death of King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia and the Yemeni government basically being forced to resign by um, the population of Yemen. And the reason they're important for us for natural law here in the United States, or what we would have hoped to eventually get to, is the historical perspective. Um, the Middle East has had empire after empire. I mean, Samaria, Syria, Babylon, all the empires you hear in the Bible and other things. I mean, the Bible, the Israelites were supposed to be uh, shepherds, but they were more like mercenaries, and supposedly they even came from Sumer, the city of Ur, which is in northern Samaria, modern day Iraq towards Iran. Um, well, these empires go back a lot. My concern has to do with the Sunni Shia um, warfare. That first the British Empire, then the American Empire has been the United States Corporation Empire has been exaggerating and exacerbating. They've done but it's nothing new. The Roman Empire, they controlled through divide and conquer. Um, Alexander the Great had that area as well under his control through one of his generals. I mean, there's a long line of it. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about last night. I mean, the whole Middle East, North Africa, what we now call the Sahara Desert, was the once green grassland. They have a cave painting showing antelopes and all kinds of critters, game meat, and the other one of the reasons I'm concerned with this, the political thing, is that it will come back to us because those people there have no food. The land had been so degraded from the agriculture and from massive livestock, sheep herds, huge, huge herds of sheep, because each lord, each magistrate, wealth, each upper class citizen, including Abraham, who is described in the Bible as coming from Sumer, from Ur to Palestine with flocks of sheep, flocks of goats, flocks of this, was his manservants and his women servants and their shepherds and the whole thing. And they already had elitism already in a big way. And you don't see any of that in North America. Or you see a little bit in Central and South America, and even there, it's dramatic. So what's the difference? Well, part of it is that grain agriculture has some characteristics to it. And since the first known wheat apparently was about 10,000 years old ago, they think, and that apparently the first evidence for cultivated wheat goes to Eastern Turkey. Here we go, Middle East again. Eastern Turkey, somehow that's not a surprise. They've had thousands of years to destroy their land, and the people rightfully are concerned about their children eating, and that's going to be a big problem. They're going to want to be able to sell their oil, and then there's always parasites that are willing to come in like vultures and exploit the people like they're doing in the U.S. corporation is just nothing but an arms dealer. like the British Empire was. And while the people in North Africa and the Middle East have a tribal culture, they've had tribal culture. These were always, or for the vast majority of their history in the last 6,000 or 8,000 years, have been subjugated and underneath ruling military dictatorships. They're used to that. They're accustomed to the idea of a king, of someone lording it over them. They have their little tribes, their sheikhs, their chieftains, and whatnot, but they also have, and that's kind of the thing. They're like their majesties. So, as I was going to say, there's some characteristics of land management, and this is important. It's a lesson for us. It's not just going to affect us and change the price of oil for people of us using the Federal Reserve funny money, because it will affect it. Because Yemen is also apparently part of this GCC, this Gulf Coalition Council, a cooperation council, or whatever. And apparently they're a part of that. So I'm not sure how the resignation of the whole Yemeni government is going to affect that, but it will have an impact. Some of the impacts of grain agriculture are the fact that you have to store a large amount. The grain has to be stored and then distributed over the winter. And so you have the police state was born of that. The practice that apparently is the most common in the Middle East and consequently in Europe, which we got it a couple thousand years ago, the Europeans, through trade and through whatnot, 2,000-3,000 years ago. I can't remember when it was introduced. But it was introduced. We didn't always have it, and we were more recent. But one of the problems is, as I was saying, when you till that soil, all the humus gets blown away. The soil gets, you have to till it every year. For those who don't know anything about farming, you have to till it. You have to cut it in the ground, dig it up, stir it up, so all the moisture gets exposed to the air, it floats away. The wind will blow it away. The rain will actually wash it away. Where it's in the ground and it's got all the grasses and all the stuff matted on top of it, it can't blow away. Because the grasses, the tops, soften the raindrop. It shields, the dead grass looks ugly, but it actually shields the soil from the evaporation. So there's a lot of differences. And they do it, every year. That's why the Israelites actually had the Jubilee. Because the practice was so harmful. So you have to, after so many years, have to get new land to grow your crops. And that means going in and taking other people's territory. That leads to standing armies. So now you got to feed the armies. And then the other people around you, you've got to have armies to protect from the armies coming in. And so you get this warfare thing. These warrior cults. These whole infrastructures around group-oriented, state-sponsored warfare. That's what it is. Group-oriented, state-sponsored, government-sponsored fighting to steal land, to so that you can have more land for your crops. Well, we took that from Europe because Europe was taught the Middle Eastern, and they were the first ones to do it. So you can't really totally blame them. They were 1.0. But you look at the Andes, you look at Southeast Asia where they did have food forests. There's one, I think it's in Vietnam, that is 500 years old. It's still in existence in spite of the big corporations going in and just tearing apart everything, as they do everywhere. They've got one that's supposed to be 500 years old. So you have, and even in some places in the Middle East, or some of these oases. These oases were actually food forests. So there may have been a knowledge before grain agriculture, and for whatever reason, the folks starting in eastern Turkey went down the grain agriculture path. One of the things that does do, especially when you do it over a number of years and over centuries, it changes population dynamics. Apparently, the human body, females cannot make babies under certain conditions. And one of those, protein making your body healthy, which is what the paleo diet is all about. It's meat, fruits, vegetables, nuts, a well-rounded, diversified diet, which is what our hunter-gathering ancestors had. And but apparently, the women can't make babies if they're nursing. And in these cultures that are still doing the hunter-gathering, you have to wait till the teasing comes in. If the teeth can't come in, they can't chew the food, so they have to be nursed up to 4 years old. Well, grain agriculture, if you've ever made oatmeal and it's turned into flush and you can practically drink it, gives you an idea. When you see the UN refugee camps and you see the feeding these poor children with these liquid grain, that's how come you can wean children of the breast at 1 year old. And that difference in a few years makes a difference in how often you can make a baby. That in turn changes the population. So grain agriculture is actually the cause of population explosion and not the remedy for it. But anyway, there's a couple other factors, including the fact that the protein versus the carbohydrate changes the body ability to make a baby too, I guess, or some strange chemistry. I'm not real familiar with it, but apparently it does have an impact. And that population demographics also. So now you've got that example of thousands of years of destroying the land through grain agriculture, through huge herds roaming in an unsustainable manner, no predators, keeping the numbers down because you need that head count in order to say, oh, I'm better than you because look, I have X amount, I got 20,000 head of sheep, you've only got 10,000. It's this kind of mentality. Mine's bigger than yours, high school tomfoolery, taken on a societal scale. Now you go to the Americas, you don't see it. As I said last night, the landscape was very, very well cared for. The settlers actually thought it was totally natural, when in fact it was managed. It just looked natural because of the kind of destruction. Now we have an opportunity to look at these cultures and see that, and see how they managed it, how they lived well, and ask ourselves, can we do this? What can we do to take care of ourselves and our children? Because that's what natural law is. You're taking your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your heart, and you're looking out and seeing what's there. And how the universe works. And the universe does not work the way we were taught in school. Communism and capitalism are two sides of the same coin. One is just centralized ownership and control and distribution of the wealth. And other is the appearance that multiple people have the wealth and they're distributing it. But the reality is it is concentrated wealth, neither way. One is just more honest about it as far as that, and they weren't very good at managing it. It could be seen at the end of the Cold War. When I was in high school, in '87, I graduated a year later than I should have. And with the end of the Cold War, we didn't even think the Cold War would end. The Berlin Wall hadn't even come down yet. So we had in high school, the history book said there were three kinds of economics: capitalism, communism, and then for everything else under the sun, traditional, which included the various gifting cultures which had more than one flavor, quite a few. And then we can do the airship economy, and there's other possible arrangements that are still along a moneyless and a similar line of imitating nature. And that's a big deal. So you're going to see the oil prices go up. The rate of exchanges are going to get wacky again. We Americans have forgotten how to raise our crops, sell our own, make our own cloths, build our own things. China is in Russia are going to build a high-speed train. We're not doing that. We're supposed to be the richest country in the world, and all we're doing is printing funny money that's being used by the bankers unlawfully for speculation, for gambling. But essentially, that's what when you hear the word speculation, just substitute gambling, because that's basically what it is. High stakes, legalized gambling for big shots. And that's all it is. But that doesn't help the people. It doesn't help feed the children, clothe them. As I said last night, we all have individual talents. We all have individual skills. And we're going to have to learn to do it. The euro-dollar interaction is already getting cuckoo because of the ECB thing I said last night. That's going to affect trade. The U.S. is not going to be able to take care of itself. And we've forgotten how to do all this stuff because we were taught it's un-American. The lying to the people, the telling the people this phony thing that it's un-American to grow your own food, to have a garden, to use hemp, so that the big corporation could steal from you, steal from the people overseas. It's all a twisted little game. But my concern was for the Sunni-Shia war and the fact that the media is not going to be helping anything. They'll give the big PR for the big corporate government, U.S. corporation, UK, what have you, and their usual imperialist, colonialist nonsense. And that's all they do. And they're not really going to help the people. They're not really going to help us because it's American to farm. It's American to sew and to weave and spin and to craft. You don't have to make a market. You just need what little you need to live. And enjoy it. Just like our Indian brothers did. And learn to manage the land. Learn to care for it. Food forests. It can be done in the city. They can definitely be done in the urban areas. We can once again have paradise. And that is in harmony with natural laws of life. And I guess I'm starting to ramble now. But my real concern is because of the hatred and bigotry that will be stirred up. And that the police will be told that they have to enforce this stuff. Enforce all these rules and regulations that are unlawful. Encourage violence. That seems to be the only thing that these creeps know how to do. So they're going to probably try to trigger more warfare between the Sunni and Shia and magnify whatever differences they feel instead of allowing them to work out their differences and find a harmonious way to live. Because they don't benefit, because they can't steal. If they can't have it, they'll destroy it. Kind of like Saddam Hussein did with the oil. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the U.S. corporation will go that far. I mean, for the most part, except for making my videos, I keep my trailer in the dark. Because I live what I practice. And I want people to understand, because I'm legally blind, I can do that. But you just gotta, I guess you just really gotta pay attention to what's going on and realize in your heart, we're all human beings. There is a law, the Indians have a story about the law of unity and the council of animals. And it was so important that for the animals that wanted to be chief after the bear was chief for so long, that the spirit keepers of the different directions, north, south, east, and west, came in and said, you guys are equal. They'll just merge with us and take our part of our responsibility, and there'll be no fighting, because the all of life needs to work as a team. There is actually more cooperation in nature than there is competition. There is some, but not much. Anyway, I'm rambling on a bit, and I hope you guys all have a beautiful night. I really hope that our Middle Eastern brothers can be taught landscape habitat restoration so they can feed their children. We can stop drilling for oil and thinking, oh, well, if we drill more, oh, that's the other thing. The politicians are going to absolutely try to say, well, if we want to have oil, if we want to run your car, you can run on a compressed air. I don't even like cars because I can't drive. It just smells, it's noisy, it's disrespectful to life. But you don't have to have fossil fuels. You can run them on compressed air. And to get compressed air, you don't even need to have fossil fuels. There's something called a Trump. TROMPE. And Bill Mollison was showing a large video, that very long one, it's showing how it works. And they have it. But you Google Trump and you can find plans, I'm sure, for how to do it. For the smaller scale Trumps, you can use the stuff out of the hardware store. For the bigger ones, you may have to go to the specialty plumbing, and that'll cost a little more. But you can make compressed air. You can make compressed air, and you can run your vehicles on it. You can generate electricity on it. You can run everything in your workshop on it. There's absolutely no need we need to be drilling it out, and that's only one type of technology. I've heard that there are other types out there that I'm not familiar with, and I don't know that you could do it readily. But that you can readily do. It's 16th century technology that anybody can do. If you have a little water, have a little stream, and a lot of folks on the East Coast have that, North Pacific Northwest. So you got to pray for that rain and learn to use and work with all the system. Because there's no reason for us to dig oil and frack. We don't have to be destructive to have a quality life. Again, we don't need to make a market. We don't need to just consume everything and destroy it and then wonder why it's not there for our children. This is what the bankers are going to do. This is what the cabal are going to do. This is whatever we want to call those creeps up in Washington, London, unfortunately the Vatican, or any of the other central bankers. That's what they're going to tell you to do. They're going to say, go to war, murder people, create coups so we can steal Russian oil, Russian gold, make people fight against each other so that nobody's working together and using their little cabezas. It just really bothers me because I know they're going to do it. Because that's the only thing they do. They harp on fear. They harp on saying, oh, you can't be like Americans, like out of the 50s. You can't have the so-called American dream. That's hogwash. Even though I don't like cars, even though I don't think it makes you a man, to have that transportation, you don't need to dig for oil. You don't need coal to burn electricity. It can all be done decentralized. Wind, compressed air, solar. There's all sorts of stuff, and there's exotic stuff that I'm not even familiar with, like I say. So there's absolutely no need for it. It's just brainwashing, and we have to unbrainwash ourselves. We got to clean ourselves up on the inside, on the heart, and on the mind, and then we'll have the wisdom that we'll need in order to care for our families, and for our children, and for our children's children, and return to a healthy, natural law society. So share this video with your friends, your family, your band, your tribe, and your clan, which is, I guess, in many Native American tribes, the clan was more of what we would like say a job association or something, career, or I'm not sure what the equivalent, but what they would call it. But it's more along the lines of that. But share it with your friends, your family, your band, your tribe, the people you care about. Share this video, share other videos, look around and explore, and ask yourself, can I do that? Can I grow food? Can I sew and weave and make my own clothes for my children? Does it matter if I look like some Hollywood celebrity? That's all total make-believe. Does it really matter? I don't think so, but that's just my opinion. Do we have to destroy the landscape and the habitat in order to be able to drive or to run the few machines we might want to have? I don't think so. In fact, I know we don't have to. We're doing it because we're taught that. We're doing it because all the infrastructure around us is forcing us to. But more and more of us are going to have to take a stand and ignore family, ignore friends, ignore everybody. And say, look, I am concerned about the well-being of the future. I'm concerned about my own well-being. I don't need to worry about some poor dudette in the Middle East or Russia or China or Africa. I don't need their diamonds. I don't need their gold. I don't need their oil. If anything, we could be the greatest country in the world again. All we have to do is learn habitat restoration and be like the natives and have the native spirits and the native elders teach us how to do that and then export it. Habitat restoration. And then we can watch beautiful, beautiful things. Our air quality would improve. We wouldn't have sand blowing, toxic sand that blowing from China. We wouldn't have acid rain falling on the east coast from the west coast because of the power generation. There's got to be, and there is, better ways. And we don't need to go to war. We don't need to steal their oil. We don't need to do anything like that. And we certainly don't need to say, oh, my God is better than your God. I'm going to start another war. That's not natural. I mean, even Jesus said, live by the sword or die by the sword. He did not preach the militarism of Judaism. He preached the attitudes and teaching that are more in common with Buddhism. Because the Middle East was nothing but one warrior cult after another because they had to get other people's land in order to feed themselves. In order to have nibbles for their flocks. In order to be able to have some kind of sustenance. Anyway, that's it for my rambling for the day. You guys all have a wonderful night. Take care. Bye-bye for now.